There are 5 government forms sitting in a filing cabinet at your county assessor's office right now that could cut, freeze, or completely wipe out your property tax bill. 5 forms. Most homeowners over 65 have never seen a single one of them. Before I go any further, I want to clear up the biggest misconception about this topic, because it's the reason millions of people who legally qualify for these programs never file anything. Some of you are watching this thinking, this is for low-income retirees who are struggling to make ends meet. My house is paid off, I'm comfortable, this doesn't apply to me. You're wrong. Others are thinking, this is some kind of loophole for wealthy people with big estates. I live on Social Security and a small pension, this isn't for me either. You're wrong too. Here's the truth. It doesn't matter if your house is worth $85,000 in a rural county or $600,000 in a zip code that just got reassessed. There is real, specific money on this list with your name on it. I'm going to walk through exactly who benefits most from each one, because the honest answer is different people win in different ways, but almost everyone wins somewhere on this list. And if you're renting, don't click away either. Your landlord pays that property tax bill, and it gets built directly into your monthly rent. When property taxes get frozen or reduced in your area, rent increases slow down too. This affects you more than you think. So why doesn't anyone tell you about this? Simple. Your county assessor's office is funded by the property taxes it collects. Every exemption they approve is money they don't get to keep. Nobody there is in a rush to mail you a form that shrinks their own budget. The county won't call you on your 65th birthday. Your mortgage company won't flag it on your statement. Even the real estate agent who sold you the house has no reason to bring it up. The national average property tax bill runs around $4,800 a year. If you're 65 now and live another 20 years, that's nearly $100,000 flowing out the door, on a bill that, for a lot of you, should be a fraction of that, or nothing at all. Over the next 20 minutes, I'm walking through 5 forms, one at a time, in plain English. Then I'm adding 3 bonus strategies at the end for homeowners with some assets to protect, because those last 3 can be worth serious money and almost nobody talks about them. Quick note on who I am. I'm a state bar licensed estate attorney. For the last 15 years, I've sat across the table from county assessors, probate clerks, and IRS agents representing everyday homeowners. And the pattern I see over and over isn't people trying to scam the system. It's careful, honest people in their 60s, 70s, and 80s who've been overpaying a tax bill for years simply because nobody ever told them which piece of paper to file. That's the most expensive kind of mistake, because there's no red flag, no penalty notice, nothing. Just money quietly leaving your account year after year that never needed to leave. Let's fix that. Stick around to the end. The 5th form is the one that costs people the most money over a lifetime, and it's honestly one of the simplest to file. Form number 1, the homestead exemption. We'll start with the one most people assume they already have, and a surprising number don't. Nearly every state offers some version of a homestead exemption on your primary residence. What it actually does is reduce the taxable value of your home before the county runs its calculation. Florida knocks off $50,000. Texas removes $100,000 from the school district portion of your bill. Illinois takes off $6,000. Georgia, $2,000. The dollar figure changes state to state, but the savings are always real. Here's the trap. In a handful of states, this gets applied automatically the moment you buy a home. In most states, it does not. You have to file a short form with your county appraisal office, usually with a deadline around April 30th of the year you want it applied. Miss the window, and you're stuck paying full freight for that tax year. But file it once, and in most places it stays on record for as long as you own the home. One form, one time, potentially thousands of dollars off your bill every single year indefinitely. Who does this help most? Everyone, honestly, but in different ways. If you're on a tight, fixed income, a $50,000 or $100,000 reduction in taxable value can shave a third or more off your annual bill. If you're a comfortable retiree in a paid-off home that's doubled in value since you bought it, the homestead exemption matters just as much, because it's usually the prerequisite for everything else on this list. Counties typically won't let you apply for the senior exemption, the assessment freeze, or the deferral program unless the homestead exemption is already on file for your name. So if this video only gets you to do one thing, make it this. Call your county appraisal office tomorrow morning and ask a single question. Is the homestead exemption currently on file for my property under my name? If the answer is no, ask what form fixes that. That's your gateway to the rest of this list. This one stacks directly on top of the homestead exemption, and it's the one counties are least likely to volunteer information about. You typically have to ask for it by name as its own separate application. The dollar amounts vary a lot by state, and this is where the split between lower income and middle class benefit really shows up. Texas, an additional $10,000 knocked off the school district assessed value on top of the standard $100,000 homestead exemption. Florida, an additional $50,000 exemption once you turn 65, doubling your total exemption. New York, up to 50% off assessed value for qualifying seniors. Illinois, an additional $8,000. Here's where a lot of comfortable retirees check out too early, and shouldn't. Some states attach an income limit to the senior exemption. New York's threshold sits around $58,000. Illinois is closer to $65,000. If your household income is above that line, you might assume you're locked out. But here's the part most people miss. More than half the states offering a senior exemption have no income test at all. Texas, Florida, Georgia, Tennessee, Mississippi, Alabama, and several others base the exemption purely on age. Turn 65, file the paperwork, get the exemption, your income and home value don't factor in. So regardless of what your finances look like, if you're 65 or older and you own the home you live in, call your county assessor and ask 3 questions. What's the senior exemption application called in this county? What are the eligibility rules? What's the filing deadline? Get the form, file it once, and stop leaving money on the table. This is the single most valuable form on this entire list, and I mean that literally. In dollar terms, this one usually beats the other 4 combined. Here's the mechanism. Once you turn 65 and file the freeze application, the county locks in your home's assessed value at whatever it was in the year you applied. From that point forward, no matter how much your neighborhood appreciates, no matter how hot the local market gets, your tax bill is calculated using that frozen number, not the new, higher one. Your home's market value can climb by hundreds of thousands of dollars. Your tax bill doesn't move. A few real examples of how this plays out. Texas. Once you turn 65 and file the over 65 tax ceiling application, your school district property tax is frozen at the exact dollar amount you owed the year you qualified. Not just the assessed value, the actual bill. Triple your home's value and the school tax portion stays put. Illinois. The senior assessment freeze locks in your equalized assessed value as long as your household income stays under a state-set cap. New Jersey. The senior freeze program refunds you every dollar of property tax increase above the level you were paying the year you first qualified. Different states, different mechanics, same outcome. Your tax growth stops. This is exactly where a lot of financially comfortable retirees get hurt the most by not knowing this form exists, because the freeze delivers its biggest win in precisely the kind of neighborhood a comfortable retiree tends to live in. Picture this. Your home was worth $220,000 the year you turned 65. It's worth $440,000 now. If you never filed the freeze, you've been paying tax on every dollar of that appreciation, and you'll keep paying on it for as long as you own the home. Meanwhile, the neighbor across the street who filed the same year is still being taxed on the original $220,000 number. Identical house, identical street, identical year built, 2 completely different tax bills, and the only difference is 1 piece of paper. One critical detail. Most states impose a filing window, typically January 1st through April 30th of the year you turn 65, or sometimes the following year. Miss it, and in some states the freeze is gone for good. This is the form I'd push hardest on. Call your county and ask specifically for the senior tax ceiling or senior assessment freeze application by name. Even if you turned 65 3 years ago, many states will still let you file. The exemption applies going forward, not retroactively, but every year you wait is a year of overpayment you'll never recover. This one is quieter still, and it's aimed at homeowners on a modest or fixed income. The name comes from the idea of an electrical circuit breaker. When your property tax bill climbs past a certain percentage of your income, the breaker trips and the state refunds you the overage. Here's how it typically works. You file an application, usually attached to your state income tax return, even if you don't owe state income tax that year. You report your household income and how much property tax you paid. If that tax bill exceeds somewhere between 3% and 6% of your income, depending on the state, you get a check or a tax credit for the difference. States with some version of a circuit breaker for seniors include Massachusetts, Maine, Vermont, New York, Michigan, Minnesota, Missouri, Maryland, Wisconsin, and Illinois, among others. Payouts range from a few $100s a year up to $1,300 or more. This is a state form, not a county one, which is part of why it flies under the radar. The county has no incentive to tell you about a refund that doesn't come out of its own budget. If your income is mostly Social Security plus a modest pension, and your property tax feels like it's eating a real chunk of your monthly budget, there's a strong chance you qualify. And these programs aren't as restrictive as people assume. New York's basic credit threshold sits just under $29,000, with an enhanced credit available at higher incomes. Maryland's cutoff is closer to $60,000. This isn't strictly a poverty program, it reaches solidly into middle-income territory. If your state offers one and your household income is under roughly $60,000, search Circuit Breaker Property Tax Credit plus your state name and look for the form. It's often a single page buried in the back of your state income tax instructions. Some states will even reimburse prior years, others only apply going forward. Either way, it costs nothing to file and the refund is real. Here's the one I promised at the top. The form that quietly costs people the most money, and one that almost nobody discusses because every county and state that offers it seems to treat it like classified information. The concept, if you're over a certain age, usually 62 or 65, depending on the state, and you meet a residency requirement, you can apply to defer your property tax entirely. Not reduce it, stop it. The state pays your property tax on your behalf, and the deferred amount becomes a lien against the home. That lien only gets paid off when the home is sold, refinanced, or passed to your heirs. For a homeowner who's house rich, cash poor, which describes an enormous number of retirees, this can be genuinely life-changing. You can stay in the home you raised your family in without writing the county a check for property tax ever again for the rest of your life. Oregon, California, Washington, Colorado, Texas, Tennessee, Idaho, Illinois, and Massachusetts are among the states offering some version of senior property tax deferral. Here's what surprises a lot of middle-class retirees. In several of these states, the deferral isn't income restricted at all. The interest rate charged on the deferred balance is typically low, often somewhere in the 2% to 6% simple interest range, and the lien sits behind your mortgage in priority, not ahead of it. If the alternative to paying your tax bill is selling a home you love just to stay afloat, this program exists specifically to prevent that. One important caveat: if you still carry a mortgage, check with your lender first. Some mortgage agreements treat unpaid property tax as a default trigger, so this works most cleanly on a home that's fully paid off. The application usually goes through your county treasurer's office or state revenue department, and most programs require annual renewal. That's Form 5, and for some of you, this single form is worth more than the other 4 combined, because every year you keep paying a tax bill you could have legally deferred is a year of retirement savings handed straight to the county for no reason. If you have any equity or assets at all, these next few minutes could matter more than everything above it. Bonus number 1, the disabled veteran exemption. If you served in the military, this one deserves your full attention. Nearly every state offers a disabled veteran property tax exemption, and depending on your VA disability rating, it can eliminate your property tax bill entirely. A 100% service-connected disability rating in states like Texas, Florida, Virginia, and Pennsylvania often means zero property tax for life on your primary residence. Even a partial rating, 30%, 50%, 70%, usually earns a proportional exemption that stacks on top of everything else you've already filed for. The paperwork is typically a single page plus a copy of your VA disability letter. If you served or a spouse served, look into whether the exemption applies to you or can be transferred. Bonus number 2, the surviving spouse carryover. When a senior homeowner passes away, their exemptions, the senior exemption, the assessment freeze, sometimes the veteran exemption, do not automatically transfer to the surviving spouse. They usually have to be reapplied for, often within a year of the death, and the surviving spouse typically needs to be at least 55, sometimes younger if dependent children are involved. If nobody files, the property tax bill can jump sharply, sometimes by thousands of dollars, on a household that's just lost a chunk of its income. Most counties won't flag this for you. The paperwork is short, but the deadline is real. Bonus number 3, protest your assessment. This one has nothing to do with an exemption and everything to do with the number the county assigned your home in the first place. Every property tax bill starts with an appraised value set by an assessor who, in most cases, has never set foot inside your house. They rely on neighborhood comps, square footage estimates, and general assumptions, and they get it wrong constantly. Every county has a formal protest process, usually open for 30 to 60 days after your annual appraisal notice arrives. You file a short protest, bring 3 comparable sales from your immediate area that came in lower than your appraised value, and present your case to a review board, often in a 15-minute meeting. A meaningful share of these protests succeed, sometimes lowering your appraised value by tens of thousands of dollars, which lowers your tax bill that year and every year after. It costs nothing to file, requires no attorney, and fewer than 5% of homeowners nationally ever bother. Make it a habit, especially the year you turn 65. None of this happens automatically. The county isn't going to call. Your mortgage servicer isn't going to flag it. Your tax preparer isn't going to bring it up unprompted. Every single form on this list sits in a drawer at the county assessor's office until someone walks in and asks for it by name. The homeowners who end up with these exemptions on file aren't luckier, and they aren't wealthier than everyone else. They just knew the form existed. If you found this useful, share it with someone over 65 who's still paying a full property tax bill. It might be worth thousands of dollars to them next year alone.